Hey, my name is Yona Nimmer, and welcome to the Amazon Playbook, where we dive deep into the strategies and stories behind the most successful brands on Amazon. In our upcoming episodes, we'll be sharing conversations with key partners who have been instrumental in the growth of brands like Ray-Ban, Gucci, and many more household names. This episode today is brought to you by Amazon Growth Lab. At AGL, we help brands on Amazon achieve explosive growth with a focus on organic visibility. Now, John, I know you've probably spoken to a lot of agencies, and I imagine most of them are just talking about PPC, and they're not taking really a holistic approach. And that's really how AGL differentiates. An example of what this can lead to is this past January, we had a client that signed up, and since then, their revenue has 10x'd. They went from nearly 100K to $1 million. Does that mean that we're going to have that same success with every single brand that signs up? No, obviously not. But it's an illustration of, the experts that work here and the tools and capabilities that we have. If you're ready to take your Amazon presence to the next level, let's make it happen. Visit AmazonGrowthLab.com to learn more. Now, before introducing today's guest, I just want to give a quick shout out to Zoo and Hug from Mavi. John, have you heard of Mavi jeans?
I have. I actually own quite a few pairs. Great
Really?
jeans. I love them. Yes.
You're kidding.
No, I love
That's
them.
so funny. I'm actually wearing my Mavi jeans as we speak.
Yeah, they're super comfortable and great quality.
Yeah, we're on the same page. I feel like most jeans, I feel like really constricted, and it's like the only pair that I have where I'm like, I can just like, it doesn't matter if I like want to go to the gym after or just like sprawl out on the couch. I just my legs go in all directions.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Mobby. They're a great brand. I love those jeans.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. I did not expect that.
Yeah, no, me neither.
Cool. Well, now to the exciting part for the audience, which everyone has been waiting for. Let's introduce today's guest. John Anderson is the president of Biogents Inc., a world leader in creating cutting-edge mosquito traps. He's a seasoned executive with over 2 decades of experience in growing businesses. Throughout John's career, he has managed sales and marketing across B2B, direct-to-consumer, and retail distributions, working with major retailers like Amazon, Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's, Target. The list goes on and on. I'm sure I can barely scratch the surface when introducing yourself. So maybe you can start off just by telling us a little bit about Biogents. And really, yeah, I think most people probably have never heard of Biogents. So what is it?
Yeah, thank you, Yona. I really appreciate that. And I want to say quickly, thank you just for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure anytime we get together and talk. The more I meet with you, just excellent how much I learned more just about the Amazon space and e-commerce and everything to do with that world. So a little bit about Biogents. We're a scientific company, and we essentially believe that there's a better way to get rid of those pesky mosquitoes, those nuances, than just through pesticide or just spraying, which is what's common out there. And so we developed a non-toxic pesticide-free solution for mosquito control. And it's our mission really to just make the environment a little bit more friendly, cut down on those pesticides, and yet really help, it's a strong word, but really help eradicate mosquito-borne diseases by essentially getting rid of mosquitoes. So that's kind of what we do here at Biogents.
I happen to be the person anytime I go on a camping trip where, I'll be around a campfire with like 5 other people. And for some reason, mosquitoes only come to me. All of my friends are like, oh, there are mosquitoes out. I don't feel anything. And then like 2 hours later, I have 20 mosquito bites all over me. So definitely something I need personally. And yeah, maybe you can tell me a little bit more about how it works. Because, I know a little bit about Biogents, but I
Sure.
imagine most people that are listening are imagining, hey, it's probably a non-toxic spray that you put on your skin. So maybe we can give a little bit more details into, I know you said it's science driven.
Yep.
What does that process look like and how does it actually work?
Yeah. So you actually brought up an interesting point where you're out with your friends, family, whatever, and you tend to get bit the most, right? A lot of people have that experience. I myself and my wife. We get eaten alive, it seems, of mosquitoes. Two of our kids, they don't seem to be affected at all. And then another one of our kids, they're like us, mosquito bites everywhere. There's a reason for that, and Biogens actually wondered that. And so our founders, there were a couple of scientists, Dr. Martin Geyer and Dr. Andreas Kroos. They're from Germany. They're biologists by trade, and they specialize in mosquitoes. And they asked that questions: why are mosquitoes biting certain human beings, so to speak, right? And what they found that there was certain pheromone, certain lactic acid. And again, I won't get into the details. I won't bore anyone with the scientific side. But they spent literally almost 20 years of researching this, and they found that there is a specific scent that some humans have and others don't. And it's a mixture of the lactic acid and some pheromones and so forth that draw in particular mosquitoes. So what they did, they studied that, they analyzed that, and then they created, we call it the BG sweet scent, but it's a patented attractant, and it's a specific formula that acts like a human. It smells just like a human to the mosquito. And so we put that in our traps. Now it's important to note that our BG sweet scent can go into any mosquito trap, but our traps are specifically designed to mimic a human being. And a human being, how your scent is given off of you, there's a certain heat pattern to it. So our traps are designed to specifically mimic a human being with that specific smell, the BG sweet scent. So it's going to attract the most mosquitoes in there. Again, backed on science, we have over 400 peer-reviewed publications on this. We're the only company that has that. We just have such a high efficacy rate because, again, that's what the founders do. They are biologists, they're scientists, experts on mosquitoes, and they really studied what attracts the mosquito the most when it comes to biting certain individuals or certain humans.
It's cool to hear because I feel like, most business owners that I speak to in today's day and age, they're like, I'm like, hey, what made you start this business? And they're like, oh, we took a data-driven approach. We studied the market. We, looked at basically analytics and figured out, hey, this is a market with high demand, low competition. But it sounds like, with Biogents, it really came from passion. It came from a place of, I actually want to solve a problem in the world and make the world a better place. Um,
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And it's very interesting because Biogens kind of did it the reverse or the backwards way of what a typical business would go about. Biogens was founded on the science. They had a purpose to really just learn more about mosquitoes. Specifically, they wanted to help countries that were really high with mosquito-borne diseases, dengue, and a few others. But with that approach, they focus more so on the data and the efficacy as opposed to a lot of other companies, especially in the US. When people start new companies, they really focus on the marketing, right? You got to market it perfect. You got to say the right thing. You got to really drive that emotional sell. Bio didn't do that. If anything, I would say our strong suit is backed by the data and the science. Our weakness and what we're still getting better at and figuring out is how do we market this? Because we're very well known in the scientific community with researchers. Matter of fact, this year we were the official protector of the Tour de France. We had our traps around the Olympic Village. But when you come to the US specifically or other regional markets and you say Biogens, a lot of people have not heard of us, again, because we've lacked maybe on the marketing side. But where we've really hit it home and where we really built the foundation of the company was on the data, on the
It's like
scientific
you
side.
can you can be a Nobel Peace Prize winner. You can have an award from, the biggest institutions in the world, but if you have the Amazon Choice badge, your world is going to change drastically more.
That's that's right. That's right. And so that's why it's so important for us as a company to we have the foundation of the scientific side. Now we really need to focus on how do we do this marketing thing? How do we brand it? How do we get the name out there? How do we educate the consumer why we're different and why you should test out our mosquito traps as opposed to just spraying pesticides or anything else out there?
So I know that you personally have experience of uh, helping other brands scale from almost no presence to doing, uh, I don't know the exact figure, but I would imagine just based off of looking, on back end analytics, tens of millions of dollars would be my guess. So I'm curious. I know that Biogents essentially brought you on because, you basically have two scientists that they're like, hey, we're really good with science, but when it comes to business, we don't know anything. And they basically are like, we need to find an expert who can help scale this business to the next level, AKA in comes John Anderson. So the moment that you kind of come into the business, I'm sure that especially if it's not run by, and I do in air quotes, businessmen, things aren't going to be structured in a way that is probably marketable. It's going to be more scientific approach. So how long have you been there, and do you feel like you've had to rip everything out from inside out? And I know at least I like to focus on the 80-20 rule, so I'm curious, like, what were your first steps of like, this is what's going to make the biggest impact to, affecting the bottom line?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I'll try to break it down, and hopefully I can cover everything here. A little bit on my background. So I've been doing CPG, consumer product goods, or in that atmosphere for almost 20 years now. And my previous role, I'm with Biogents fairly new. I started with them May 1st of this year. My previous role, I was VP of Sales, Retail Division, Consumer Division for a company called AP&G, a laminate paste and glue company. Their brand was Catchmaster. And I led their strategy as far as how do we reach the consumer when it comes to retail. And when I first started with them, and even 5 or 6 years ago, a big strategy for brands is mostly being in stores, right? You got to be in stores. Who do you partnership? You want people to go to the major retailers. Think of Walmart, Target, Home Depot, Lowe's. It depends what product you're selling, but especially in pest control, you want to be in those key retailers. And to this day, I believe that's key. If you're going to build a brand, that's where people are shopping. You want to be in there. But how you go about it a little quicker is understanding the consumer and where they can find you the quickest. And so it's important that consumers will see you in stores as they're shopping. But what's more important right now, especially with building brands or for getting your reputation out there, is where customers find you, whether they're on their mobile phone or on a computer. Because right now, consumers, when they have an issue, when they have a problem that they want to solve, they're first going to their phone and they're looking it up. And a few years back, it used to be Google was everything. And not Google. Google's great. I use them all the time. They're still very important. However, what we found is the last few years, a lot of our consumers, their first spot is going to Amazon. And they're really looking at Amazon. They're seeing reviews. They're seeing if the brand is on Amazon. They're first learning about a brand and what that brand means on Amazon. And so, in my experience, unless you're a billion-dollar company like Nike, they've been established for so long, right? Everyone knows them. People, they'll search just Nike or so forth. But if you're a newer brand, or you're, I would say, a mid-tier brand like Catchmaster, you really need to understand branding. Branding starts with how you first appear when customers search you, what they first see. And sometimes that's your website. Often, though, more often than not, it's not your website. That's not their first initial contact with you. Their first initial contact is Amazon and seeing you on there. So when I came on board, Biogents had a very small, they had a very small presence, I guess, on Amazon, but not much. It wasn't a main focus of theirs. And I basically mimicked what we did with Catchmaster. When I came on board with Catchmaster almost 5 years ago, we had a smaller presence on Amazon. We really, we were selling to Amazon. We were selling to
Vendor
them.
Central.
Yes, yeah, vendor. Sorry, I'm thinking of the words here.
There's like way too much jargon
There's so
and
much on
crazy
there.
terms when it comes to the Amazon ecosystem.
Yeah,
If you're
and
not
honestly,
confusing
that's where
things,
you and your team come into play with all the expertise, which has helped me out. But I do know on the Vendor Central, that's what you're selling to Amazon. Amazon, at the end of the day, kind of has control of your brand, how they're going to sell it, how they're going to price it, and all that. And so we took back control, and we went seller fulfilled. We went Seller Central on Amazon. The reason being is it wasn't that we first thought we were going to get bigger sales. It was almost initially the opposite effect. We went slightly smaller sales, to be honest with you. However, what we got to be able to build our foundation on was our branding, how we looked on Amazon. when someone searched us up, what was their first impression of our brand, of the images, of our wording? We could have a little bit where we can engage with reviews and so forth. So it was really taking that
For
aspect where
anyone who doesn't know what Vendor Central is, what do you mean when you say that you can take control of your branding? Did you not have the ability to change your images, your SEO when you were
from
Vendor
my
Central? Did you not
understanding,
have?
yeah, you do it vendor central. The biggest thing is for us, and what's most important if you're an established brand or if you're building brand. So I'll give you an example. When I was at Cashmaster, we were an established brand. The company has been around since the 1950s.
Totally.
They are a top company on the pro side and on consumer sides when it comes to glue boards. That's what they're known for, Cashmaster, specifically rodent glue boards, even fly sticks and so forth. When we were selling Vendor Central and we would sell to Amazon, they were buying truckloads, pallets. However, when they would price it or put it on Amazon, they would price it for whatever they wanted to. So sometimes that pricing on Amazon would undercut our pricing strategy, whether it was to a pro or to Walmart, or we were selling at Lowe's or to True Value or any of those other stores. And so you really couldn't control your brand presence, because your brand presence is not only how you look and what you're perceived at by the consumer, but also at what price point you're trying to be in.
Could you not give them like a minimum MSRP or
For
like
sure, you can
map
give them whatever you
pricing?
want. It doesn't mean they follow it, and they don't. So most companies, you can do it in the industry is commonly called MSRP, manufacturer suggested retail price. And of course, you can kind of suggest to the retailers, because at the end of the day, Amazon's a big retailer just online. So just, hey, we'd like you to sell it for this. But once you give them the product, once they buy from you, they can essentially sell it for what they want, even if it means they're going to take a loss. At the end of the day, they don't care, because they have multiple business units where they can make money up on the back end. So we could talk hours on that whole strategy of Amazon, of why they would even lose a little bit here just to get more traffic to their website, because maybe they just want to get you to do a quick sale so they can pick up more business on another item that they're making margin on, or they're trying to create or open up warehouse space. There's all sorts of reasons of why they would do that. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is, you as a brand, as a company, whether you're small or big, you don't have control over that pricing. They're going to sell it for whatever they want. Pricing is a big deal when you're trying to control your brand image, especially as you're trying to grow and you're really trying to mitigate, we call it channel conflict, of where you're selling on what channels, right? Whether you're in retail stores, brick and mortar, whether you're online, whether it's Amazon or your own website, Shopify, BigCommerce, whatever you're selling on there. And so really the only way to do that is to take over or take control of your Amazon sales terms. Another thing with that is, if you're branding, you have a brand, your brand registered, you want to be able to control or at least have a say of who's selling your product on Amazon. Because if you're selling elsewhere and someone else has your product, right, almost anyone can create a Seller Central account. Or in my case, when we were at Cashmaster, we were selling to some larger distributors that were just selling vendor to Amazon themselves. And so they were really undercutting the price because they had to make margin, and they were selling Amazon was going to make margin, and we had no control, no say over that. And so it really is gaining back control of your overall brand, your overall image, what pricing you're going to put it at, and so you can really mitigate any type of pricing conflict across the different selling channels and different websites, whether it's Amazon, eBay, your website, so forth.
So, when you were working at AP&G, it sounds like being in, physical retail stores was a big part of the strategy as well. What percentage of your guys' sales were online versus in stores? And where do you see that changing and heading over the next 10, 20 years?
Yeah, really good question. So there's this misconception. Well, I say misconception, but there maybe not so much of a misconception. But there's this big trend that, especially if you're a brand, you don't need to go into stores. And I want to caution that, because it really depends what category you're selling into. And pest control specifically, about 70% of consumers still bought in store as opposed to online.
Wow.
70%, 71%. And that's actual Nielsen POS data. that we have. So it's actual sales data. It's not like we're just making up the numbers, but about 71% of actual consumers still bought in store. And it makes sense because, especially in pest control, it's an impulse item, right? You're at home, all of a sudden you see a rodent, a mouse, a rat, whatever, mosquitoes are, and you think, wow, I can't stand this. Or your spouse comes in and says, get rid of that now, right? It's an impulse item. You're heading to the store, you're 15 minutes away, you're going to buy a trap or whatever it is, you're going to come back and you're going to try to be the hero and save it that day, right? Even Amazon, as good as Amazon is, in a lot of your bigger cities, you can get 1 hour, 2 hour shipping, but typically it's 1 day, 2 day, right? So pest control is still where people want it now. So it's impulse item. Now, with that being said, what we noticed is people would still go into Home Depot or they would go into Lowe's, but while they're in store, and specifically we got this data from Walmart, while they're in a Walmart store, they would price comp Amazon to the item right in store. So they would come to the store, they would see Cashmaster, and they would see an item in there, and they would look, oh, okay, I see the price here, and then they would go on Amazon and see what the price was on Amazon. And if it was cheaper, they would price comp it. They would talk it and try to get Walmart to price comp it, vice versa, or they would order on there, and so it just caused lots of issues. So the reason I say that is it's very important to go into stores and to have that presence if you're going to grow. However, it's equally important to make sure that you're controlling your presence on Amazon because it can really conflict your strategy going in store. Secondly, if you're a newer brand like Biogents were well known across the world, very, very popular in EU, Africa, Asia Pacific, but we're new here to the US market outside of government and researchers and so forth. So we're new to the consumer market. We're not right now in retail stores, Walmart, Home Depot, and so now on the back end, for me to get into Walmart or into Home Depot, I need to prove to the Walmart buyers and to Home Depot and all them that we actually have a viable product that consumers want, and they're going to buy that, right? And so when you're going into retailers, it takes a year to get in. They do line reviews. You'll review, for example, this year you would do a line review back in February, and that's for all product going into 2025. So they're about a year out when they're reviewing products, right? So for me, if I want to get Biogents into Walmart, into Target, into Home Depot, Lowe's, I need to come to those retailers with a story, with data, with proven sales, and say, hey, listen, the consumer wants this product. And not only do they want this product, but here's the price point that they're willing to pay for that. And there is no quicker, no better way to prove that out. Also get quick customer feedback than to go through Amazon. Amazon already has the visitors. People are already visiting them. They're already going there. So you can put a product on there. You can see what the competition is doing. You can see where you sit within the whole marketplace, so to speak. And you can do a lot of testing and figure out and get that right. So then you can take that data and be ready to go as you expand the business into retail stores.
Said so well. I also think it's always very counterintuitive where, if the internal thought is I want to sell in Walmart stores, Amazon is basically Walmart's biggest enemy.
Right,
So, what you would think is we need to launch on Walmart online. We should never tell them about our Amazon sales because they're going to be
right,
really unhappy with it.
right,
And let's just scale on Walmart.
right,
I imagine the reason that you're not doing that is because Walmart has a fraction of the capability of sales that you can get than on Amazon.
right,
Um, what did you
right.
see? Like as you're coming into Biogens, is launching on Walmart a priority, or is it just focusing on Amazon right now?
No, so that's a great question. And again, I'll talk a little bit about my history and then what's our strategy with Biogens, because I'm with Biogens now. And so it's very important that I want to talk about the strategy and push that. However, it's kind of like how when you introduce the podcast, we look at past case studies because we kind of know what worked, what didn't work within the case studies, and how we can get better. And so when I was at Cashmaster, our goal was to grow and to be customer-centric. All right, the same goal here at Biogens. Customer-centric to us means we want to meet the customer wherever they're at, wherever they want to buy, wherever they feel comfortable buying, whether it's Walmart, Amazon, a web shop, whether it's their local True Value, their local A store. We wanted to meet them where they were at. And so we had to be able to sell on Amazon. We had to be able to go and sell on Walmart and Home Depot and all that. However, a lot of your retailers or a lot of brands trying to grow it, they think, well, if I sell on Amazon or if I sell wherever, I'm going to upset Walmart or I'm going to upset Home Depot or whatever. And what we found was when we were able to focus specifically on Amazon, and this is just very true. We specifically focus on Amazon when we were at Catchmaster to grow Amazon. We put in quite a few resources. We partnered with experts on Amazon to do it with agencies because we weren't the experts ourselves. And so we really put some time and energy and focus on that. We took over that Seller Central account where we took over the full power, so to speak, of how we looked at Amazon. We took off third-party sellers and we really controlled that experience. And what we found was that was a much easier conversation when I was in front of Walmart buyers because you can try to, hide it. You can't hide it. All Walmart buyers know that Amazon's there. All your Amazon people know that Walmart is there, right? They are competitors. It's the US. It's healthy competition. And so we just faced it front on. We said, listen, when we were in front of Walmart, yes, we're selling on Amazon, but here's the difference. We are selling on Amazon. We control the pricing. We control if they're going to do a sale. We control all of that. Guess what? We are selling to you, Walmart. We control all of this as well. So we're going to make sure that we're giving you the same terms, the same pricing that's on Walmart. So you're never going to get undercut on Amazon. You're going to get the same. If we run a promo here, we're going to offer that. We're going to run a promo with you on here. We can work with the promo. We call it a promo calendar. So they're not conflicting as well. If they're going to run, Prime Day sales, that's a big thing for Amazon. We can give you a special Walmart as well for your day. So that really, at the end of the day, that made the Walmart buyer feel a little bit better because they're like, okay, at least we're all getting a fair shot. They're going to give me the top sellers on Amazon. I'm going to have the top sellers here. So that was number one. Number two, what we noticed after a couple of years of doing this, not only did our sales on Amazon go through the roof, we were barely noticeable. And after 4 years, when I left, the team, not me, but the team had built it up where we were the number one billboard in all of Amazon. Huge accomplishment. I won't give a number, but it was high up, multi-million dollars in the sales side. But not only were there our Amazon sales going up, what we noticed is our in-store sales, Walmart, Lowe's, True Value, they were increasing as well. Because again, our customers, while they were in Walmart, they would go and search a product on Amazon and they would say, oh, it's the same price here. If I'm in store, I can buy it right now as opposed to waiting for 2 days. And then a lot of time what it showed was they would buy in store now, but then they had the trusted brand, they knew it, then they could go home and then they could order for their backups on Amazon. And so what we noticed after a few years, by us giving some attention and focusing on Amazon, it helped our branding, it helped our pricing, it helped our margin, which was important for us as a company, but also it elevated all of our sales across all the channels because Amazon is just a strong presence when it comes to branding.
Yeah, and I hear this time and time again where it's a holistic ecosystem, right? Where it feeds into one another. The moment that you're actually in retail, now people see your product, they know you, they search you on Amazon. The moment
Yep.
that you're in Amazon, people go to stores, they recognize your product because they've seen it before on Amazon. They're more likely to actually pick your product off the shelf.
That's
And
exactly right. That's exactly right. So with our strategy here, I came on board and I'm a big believer in, like you said, the 80-20 Pareto principle. We only have so many resources and so much time to do. And so one of the first things I did was Biogents had an agency in Germany. They were actually good. They weren't bad. We've had these conversations before. But one of my top priorities as president of Biogents is I dissected our Amazon team right away. And I said, we've got to do an RFP, request for proposals, what we call on an Amazon agency in the U.S. that understands the U.S. market, understands branding, understands Amazon and all the nuances with it, and that can move quickly. And so that was one of my first initiatives. That's what I did, and we've seen success on it. I had to do that because before we had even all of our marketing material and everything right, we had to set up and get the foundations correct on Amazon, because then we can get feedback. We can see what the competition is doing, and that's where we can build our marketing game plan off. But for us, and our strategy right now is built off of Amazon. Why? Because we have a customer-centric approach. We want to build a foundation on Amazon so that will increase what we're doing on Shopify, increase what we're going to do. We have now opened up Walmart.com so that we can prove out those sales, really find the customer wherever they want to buy, and then eventually be able to get into retail stores as well.
So I imagine throughout that process, you spoke to dozens of different agencies.
Yeah.
What was the process like of, yeah, trying to find experts in the field? Were you impressed with everyone you spoke to? Did you feel like
Yeah.
there were some people that you hop on a call and you're just speaking to a salesperson that knows nothing about Amazon? Tell us a
Yes.
little bit about that process.
Yeah. So that's a very interesting process. This is the second time I've gone through it now, because when I was at Catchmaster, we did it twice. We went through kind of almost two agencies. And so this is my Biogents. This is my third time doing the process. Gosh, it can be overwhelming, to be honest with you, because if you just go online and do a quick Google search, there are a ton that pop up for Amazon agency. And right, and this is where we get into it. And Yona, you and I, we didn't script this at all. Just so anyone listening, we like the Mavi jeans. I love those jeans. I had no clue that they're on this. We didn't script any of that. So this is just open, honest conversation. But when you start doing that, and again, I've gone through this experience, it gets overwhelming because your first taglines is majority marketing. That's what most agencies do. So they're really good at the marketing side, because they'll all say, we're the number one here. We did this. We did X, Y, Z. And at the end of the day, sometimes it's just one person that did that, and they had one success, and and they built a business off of that. Sometimes it's a large agency, which they can be good, but then you got to almost wonder, are they going to give you enough attention that you need, especially if you're smaller or a mid-sized business, to get the growth? So there really is such an array of differences when it comes to that process. For me, if you're the first time doing it, I would encourage you to get, initially contact at least 10 different agencies, narrow it down to 3 or 4, where you have them face-to-face interviews, meetings, and have a couple talks with them. And then at the end of the day, what I mostly look for, and am I allowed to say we have a partnership now? The
Yeah,
reason why,
absolutely.
okay, the reason I chose Amazon Growth Lab, why I went that route, was what makes them unique and different, at least from my perspective, is they'll put skin in the game. So this is what I like about it. So a lot of your agencies, they'll come out, they'll look at your Amazon business, whether you have established business or not, and they're going to charge you XYZ for the month, and then they want PPC and all this other stuff. And you're not 100% sure if it's going to work or not. You think it will or not, but they just want more marketing dollars. They want XYZ. What I appreciate about what you guys put skin in the game. You say, hey, here's a rate. We're going to grow with you, and we essentially will make more money when your Biogents makes more money. I love that. Okay, it's the same way when you're thinking of sales, when you're thinking of true partnership. At the end of the day, if you partner with a great company, you need to pay them well, because it's not an easy job. However, I want to pay for work being done and proven work, and where I see the growth. And that's where you guys truly set yourselves apart, because you're willing to say, okay, we have a base pay because we are doing this work, but really you guys don't really make money, because I know what the contract is until we're making money. So you're incentivized to really grow with our brand, and to really have a true partnership with our brand, and really understand what we're looking to do in our products, and how to take it to the next level. Because at the end of the day, the whole contract's tied into that.
And how has been working with AGL so far been? Like, what have
Right?
been the pros? What have been the cons? What has stood out?
Yeah. So we're still kind of in the infant stages. We've been with you guys now, I think, a couple months. Here's what stands out for me is communication. When you partner with a agency, typically you're going to talk to one person, and it makes sense. They're going to assign one person to your account. That's who you deal with. With you and your team, I've talked to, gosh, I don't know, 4 or 5 different people, to include you, CEO, multiple times. You make yourself available. You're like, John, if you need anything, here's my number. Here's where you get a hold of me. And then what I appreciated about you and your team is you have multiple layers of contact. And so at the end of the day, when you're onboarding with a new agency and with a new brand, communication is key. because at the end of the day, we don't know a lot about Amazon. That's why we're partnering with you. And at the end of the day, your team is still learning about our brand and what sets us apart, and what makes us unique. And so the only way to do that is to communicate, and to talk to each other, and to share, and to be open, and to try ideas. And I think that's what's I've really appreciated about this process. I've had multiple people, to include yourself, Yona, constantly ask me, John, what can we do better? How are we doing here? But the biggest thing is really the communication. Um, it's excellent. It's great right now, and in sharing the learning curves. There's been a couple of times where the team will share, "Hey, we tried this. It was a little off. We're going to do this route." Great. That's what I'm about. Amazon is ever changing. I've been selling in that space very closely now with a team for the last 6 years. What you did last year, you can't always do the same this year. So you've got to trust a team that's willing to test and try, and think a little bit outside of the box, kind of push boundaries a little bit. Because if you're going to really be a game changer, sometimes you got to change the game. And the only way to do
Totally.
that is to communicate, and to test things out, and to truly have a partnership. So,
I think what we really love about working with Biogents is we're very aligned in the aerial view. There's some brands where we start working with where, you know, well, sales will go up immensely, right? We'll like 2x their sales over 2 months. And then suddenly there will be one day where, they sell a couple of units, just a handful. And suddenly a lot of the times the business owner freaks out and they're like, what's going on? We were
the
on
world's
like an
burning.
upward trajectory and everything's falling apart.
Right.
And when you look at a really small sample size of time, it doesn't really tell you much of a story, right? It could be that, there was a natural disaster that day and a lot of the world wasn't even shopping because they were so focused on, are their family members healthy? It could be that, you know,
And
Amazon had a
competitors
bug.
ran a hot campaign that day, and just tried to take all sales. You bring up an interesting point, because I've always had this philosophy, not just with Amazon, but just in business in general, and in sales. But it's probably, I agree with you, it's more so on Amazon, because there's the good and the bad at Amazon. The good is you can see those sales daily, right? So you can really track it, and they make it so easy because you got the Amazon app. You can go in, and even me at my position in the sales team, the first thing they're looking at is sales. Because, okay, let's be honest, revenue is a key metric, right, for business. We got to have revenue. We got to have sales. It's what keeps the business going. However, I'm a big proponent that to do the long-term game, especially on Amazon, is to understand, to build your brand, whatever brand that may be, but to build your brand. Because if you're just worried about sales, you're going to have a great day, you're going to have a bad day. And you may have a great few months, but then there's going to be a competitor that's going to come in. They're going to somehow figure out how to do it cheaper, or pay people less, or whatever it is. And they're going to be able to undercut you on price. And if you're only worried about that sale and the price, and you're not building that trust, that brand, you're not building that image, that reputation, your Amazon sales are going to be like this, and you're not gonna. Life's going to be hard for you. So for me, it's all about, no, no, let's set goals. Let's be consistent. Now, if we hit 2, 3 weeks of just negative, what's going on here? Let's figure it out. Let's change some things up. But I'm never scared of one day, 2 days of bad sales. Which, conversely, I'm never, going to Disney World because we had 2 great days of sales either. I understand it's the long term play. How are we going to figure this out long term, and figure out what went right, what went wrong, and really dive into this. And it's a long term
What
play, and
you're
that's one thing one
describing.
after the team does. They're all over it. They're looking at this. They're constantly thinking, okay, we missed it here. Oh, we did great here. What worked? Why did we do great here? What
Hmm.
didn't do? Could we have done better? They're asking those questions. They're presenting those questions, and then my goal is to be as an open book, and empower you guys to just go do what you do. And at the end of the day, it's maybe cliche, but you trust the process. You trust the process.
Completely agreed. What's interesting always is I think everyone agrees with you conceptually, right? Like, an analogy that I think will hit with a lot of the viewers is everyone knows when it comes to the stock market, you buy when it's low, you sell when it's high. But what do people actually do? They panic.
They
So
panic,
the
they sell.
moment that a stock starts crashing, let's sell everything. The moment that, greed is in the air and stocks are going up, we have to buy it.
Right.
And I think, what I see oftentimes with business owners is they have the same philosophy. Sales
Right.
are good for 2 days, they're going out and they're celebrating. Sales are bad for a day, they're really bummed. They think the business is falling apart. And yeah, I commend you for the long term focused vision that you have. And I think that that's why you've seen so much success in the past. And that's also why, I believe so much in where Biogents is headed. Because I think that, with any business, the truth is, you're only as good as your team. On
Yeah.
Amazon, you can have the best product in the world, but you're not just selling a product, you're selling an image, right? The customer they can't see the product, they can't feel the product, they can't smell the product, they can't taste the product. So at the end of the day, you're conveying a story through an image.
Right.
And I think that, that's a real skill set that I've seen from you and your team. And it's one of the reasons that I think we're going to go so far together.
Well, I appreciate that, and you really hit it on the head. You can have the best idea or best product in the world, and this has happened, and it gets nowhere. And then you can have a okay idea or a mediocre idea or product, and you can have the best people or the world, and they will take that product to the next level because they'll listen to the consumer, they'll listen, and they'll tweak it and mold it and turn it into the best product or the best idea. And so, really, and again, I would encourage anyone that's going through this process. Um, when you're looking to partner with someone on Amazon, I highly recommend you guys. I really do. You're looking at not only what they bring to the table, but you're looking at character and trust, right? So I trust you. I trust your team. Um, you guys are open and honest. You're fair. That's, I think, what really sets it apart and just helps me when you say, okay, John, you can look at that vision. Well, the reason I can hold to that vision and know it's true because there are some days when you're like, oh man, sales are down, or we kind of how are we doing? But the reason I can hold to that is because at the end of the day, I trust you and the team, and you guys have built that. And because I trust you and the team, then I'm able to step back and just trust the process because that trust was built. No different when you build a brand. When you build a brand, when we're building a brand, we are going to have hiccups. We're going to mess up. Being customer centric is how do we build that trust and connect and continue to do trust. And sometimes it's being vulnerable, that's being open, that's being, hey, we missed the mark here. We're going to get better here. Or, okay, how do we make this better here? We actually did really good here, but how do we do gooder? How do we get great on that? And I think that's what you guys bring to the table and where I always want to be because I want to be we've talked about this before, and I want to be a true partnership to you guys. And I want you guys to be a great case study. I want us to be a great case study for you because it's not so much that we did a certain tactic, although that's important, and I think we should be sharing that. But I think the real story here is really when two companies come together and you can really build a true partnership. And if you
Mm,
really take a step back and say, no, we're going to actually try this partnership out, and that means trust, and that means trust the process and open communication, direct communication. I think you have success, and we had that at Catchmaster. We've already seen it right now in that couple months. I'm ecstatic with what you guys have already done, and we haven't even updated a lot of the marketing stuff yet at all. And we're already hugely success on the month, and again, we're just getting started. So that's what I like about it. I love the tactics. I think they're right. But the reason I don't put so much importance on the tactics or strategy is because those will constantly change, and they
that
should.
makes sense.
Business constantly changes. So what shouldn't constantly change is your partnership and the trust and who you work with. That should be established, and then get together and get those tactics, figure them out, strategy, update that. That's continual.
I'm honored that we've been able to build such good rapport, and we're just getting started. We're in our infancy.
Absolutely.
So, as we come to our last 10 minutes or so, I'm curious, have you had any mentors along the way? Has there been anyone that's been like foundational in, helping you become the successful, yeah, I mean, marketer, businessman?
Yeah.
Um,
Gosh, I've had a. There's a few. There really is a few. So I will tell you this. When I first really started on this journey, as far as like leadership, and how I want to run things, whether it was a division when I was at APNG or a unit or whatever, or now where I'm essentially running Biogents, the company. I would give a quick a shout out to Jill. I'll send this to her, but she's a part owner. She was a manager with Leapfrog Brands when I started there. She was just a tremendous mentor for me on the leadership side, on what it meant to be a leader and to have trust and to really just build out an amazing team. Secondly, and again, I'm going through maybe cliches, but I would give a shout out to Jonathan Frisch. He's one of the owners, and he was I directly reported to him at Catchmaster. Um, one of the biggest things I learned from Jonathan Frisch and from the Catchmaster team was, they had this philosophy, and I've done this, that, hey, we hired you because we trust you, we respect you, and so we're just going to get out of the way and let you do your job that we hired you to do. And a lot of the times, Yona, you kind of said it. Of course, if you go to business school, if you read any type of book, they say that all the time. You hear that all the time, but it's not practiced so much, especially when you get in the real world. And Jonathan practiced that every single day for the last
Not
4
being
years.
micromanaged.
He did not. Yes, he was highly against it. He trusted me, even on sometimes where he's like, if there was something where he could nudge, he would do that to elevate me. But he really let me run with it, and it really built a solid trust. And I just learned a lot on that. When it comes to this whole e-commerce and Amazon, I will give a shout out to Brian Beck. He really opened us up. He does B2B sales. He does do a little bit Amazon consulting as well. So just being upfront on that. But if you're a brand and you're wondering if you should sell B2B, look up Brian Beck. He's got a great book out there. I'm a good friend of him, but he's a great mentor when it comes to e-commerce and sales, especially if you're a manufacturer and you're wondering how you sell from B2B and then you want to sell on Amazon or so forth. I encourage, we're a manufacturer. We have multiple channels where we sell, to include distributors. We sell highly on Amazon, of course, through Amazon Growth Lab. You should do it. And one of our, the reasons that helped me adjust that thinking was Brian Beck, that you should be selling on Amazon. You should also then be looking at B2B and what that looks like. On Amazon, you can do B2B as well, but then also on your own website and so forth, because you can really grow your overall brand and overall sales. It's scary because you're afraid you're going to upset people, but if you get the right people in your life and you partner with the right agencies, you mitigate all that conflict, and that's what it's all about. So you can grow it together and actually strengthen not only relationships and partnerships, but overall sales.
Hmm.
So I
So,
appreciate you for letting me have the time to do that.
yeah, absolutely. I think that the position that you're in, where you basically successfully scaled a brand on Amazon. You basically said that Jonathan the Catchmaster gave you essentially the ability to run the show, right? He's not holding your hand along the way. He's like, "Hey, man, results will speak for themselves. If you're able to grow the bottom line within 6 months, your salary pays your salary pays for itself. If not, we'll see whether or not it makes sense for you to be here." After
True.
talking to you and getting an understanding of, the immense scale that you were able to bring Catchmaster to, um, I'm sure he was blown away by what you were able to bring to the table. Uh, I- I'm curious though. Um, you've basically successfully scaled one brand on Amazon initially. Now you're going to essentially try and do the same thing for another brand. Um, and, once again, you're in this position of power where you're an empowered leader and you're having trust of, you bring your vision to life and we'll follow. Do you feel like you've made it in your career? Like, is there a
No,
sense of like,
I wish. That's and I don't take that lightly. That's a great question. I will tell you this. I've been in this for almost a little over 20 years, and I was in the military before. And when I got out of the military, my first job, I was in sales, and there's some circumstances that happened. They sold the company. There was a lot of issues. I lost my job on that. And I remember sitting back, and I was a really good sales guy. I was one of their best, and I was known in the company as John, the best sales guy, best sales guy. And I remember sitting there, and I hated that. because sales is good, and if you're good at sales, you make a lot of money. But I remember thinking to myself, I'm not just a sales guy. I can do so much more. I want to lead. To me, it's not just about the money. It's not making about the sale. I really want to make a difference in people's lives. And so when that happened, I made a decision, and I made some goals. I was going to go back to school. I was going to finish my MBA and be a CEO at some point. And so I was newly married at the time, and I went back to school. I finished my MBA, and then kind of it put me on this trajectory with my career to where I was just, okay, how do I get into a leadership position? And how do I get where I'm just managing and learning all that? And so I will say that this position is a dream position for me because I had a personal goal to be a president or CEO by age 50. I'm a few years earlier than that, so I hit my goal. I'm happy with that. However,
Did you write down the goal on paper out of
I
curiosity?
wrote down the goal on paper. I've made it smart, specific, measurable. So I did that whole thing. My wife knew about it. She would hold me accountable to it. I was very, even when I went to AP&G and I went there, I was constantly learning, reading books of, okay, how do I get myself to be a leader to the next level, because I wanted at some point to get to where I was a CEO. Now, with that being said, once you get to this position, I learned this really at AP&G. The more you know, or the more you lead, or the more, let's call it power, whatever you want to call it, you have, if you're doing it right, the more you know that you need help and that you're not the smartest guy in the room. And the best leaders are not the smartest people in the room, but the best leaders are the ones that can get the team together and get the smartest people in the right room working together. And so once I kind of learned that concept, even at Catchmaster, we had significant growth on Amazon and just overall as a company, not because of me. I would love to tell you I didn't know, but I was able to understand the bigger picture and not just worried about a single account like Walmart, which when I first came on board, that was our biggest account. But I could say, no, let's look what's best for the company. Let's look what's best for branding. And let's bring in really, really smart people that we're going to listen to. And we're going to help guide. And sometimes when we have to guide, but at the end of the day, we're going to empower them, get out of the way, and let them do what they do. And that was a success. And so the reason I say that is I feel in a sense I've made it, but then there's, I've got so much more goals just with Biogents, where we're going to take Biogents at. We've talked about this. I've got so much more goals of what we're going to do on Amazon and what we're going to do on the brand. And then now I've almost found a little deeper purpose because of Biogents, where it's not just consumer driven and sales, but Biogents really has a mission to really change the world. Mosquitoes is the #1 killer of humans. I did not know that before joining Biogents. They kill the most humans out there, of course, spreading disease. And so that was kind of an eye opener again, because Biogents is founded by scientists. They're trying to make a difference in the world. They're not worried about the business side. However, for me, I know for them to fund and make a difference in the world, you got to have the business side. And so I've gotten a little bit more of a purpose that, hey, with Biogents, we can really start making a difference with mosquito-borne diseases, start mitigating that, start controlling that. And so again, I feel like I've made it in a sense. I'm happy where I'm at. I love it. I'm extremely grateful. A little bit of luck, lots of hard work, but I'm just getting started. And so I'm nowhere near where I want to be, or I'm ready to retire or anything like that.
Something tells me in 20 years you'll say the same thing about just getting started.
Okay. My wife might not let me do that in
That's
20
so
years.
good. So, yeah, I have one last question for you. Before I ask, though, I want to point people to your website, which is www.biogents.com.
Yeah.
And I know you talked about you've been reading a lot of leadership books. What's one book that you would recommend that's like this made the biggest impact on your understanding of marketing and career?
One book. I got to narrow it down to one book.
Okay, we can do three. We can do three.
I have a personal goal every year, and people that know me know this goal. I'm pretty adamant about it because I like holding people to me, holding me accountable to it. But I do 52 books a year, so I read a book a week. So I'm big on reading, lots of reading. Last year I was at 60.
Audiobooks or physical reading or both?
Both. I'm consuming.
One
And
book a week.
now they're not all huge books, right? Sometimes it's an easy read where it's 100 pages. But I have to do at least 52 books a year. But if you want to say, like I have to look this up because if you're gonna make me say, John, what's the most, and I got to do one, I would
I didn't
say
realize we're dealing with 52 a year.
52 a year. Yeah, I've been doing this for the last 4 years now. At minimum
Wow,
of 54 a year.
that's remarkable.
Yeah. One of the biggest ones that has most impacted me, and I just recently read it, was The Diary of a CEO. And that's really good. There's a podcast on it as well. It's Stephen Bartlett. That was a good one that just kind of helped ground me on just what it's like to be a president, what it's like to be a CEO, thinking
Hmm.
big picture strategy. But that's good. How to influence people. If you're just getting started and you're in a business or you're on Amazon, you definitely should be reading How to Influence People because anything in life, if you can't influence, you're gonna struggle. So that's really made a difference for me.
Well,
But
for anyone that's listening right now, if you read less than 52 books a year like me, totally understandable if you feel bad about yourself right now. You're not alone.
yeah,
That's
no, it's
amazing
again, they're
and very
not all.
inspiring.
Yeah, they're not. It's not like I'm reading these big.
Yeah, I imagine they're just like short 800-page novels.
Yeah, that's it. I will get through one or two of those a
That's
year.
so good.
But no, it's reading will change your life.
Yeah,
It will.
I completely agree. I completely agree. Before this conversation, I considered myself a big reader, and now I'm redefining what big reader means.
It doesn't take much time, 25, 30 minutes in the morning, and then you got to do 20, 30 minutes at night. So it's an hour a day. It's, you have to dedicate, but it's not, some people look at that and they're like, and then also the more you read, the quicker you get. So
When you
when I
break it
first started
down,
this, it was hard.
when
What's
you
that?
break it down into tangible steps, it's
Yeah,
so much more achievable, right? Like saying
so much
read
more. Yeah,
52 books a year, really difficult.
yeah.
Reading
And
20,
I
and
tell
you're not
people,
even
don't
saying
even do
read
that.
it.
Start one book a month, 12 books.
Yeah. And
12 books. Start with one book a month. Yeah.
you're not even saying read an hour a day. You're saying 25 minutes in the morning, 30,
Yeah.
35 minutes at night. It's like broken down to small bite-sized pieces, which makes it
Yep.
easier.
Yep. Makes it much easier. And then the more you do it, the quicker you get. And then before you know that, that's almost like it's where you get peace and tranquility. It's like, oh, I can't wait to read. What's this? I want to see what
That's
it's
amazing.
interesting perspective. But it really, yeah, you're drawn to it.
Well, I love how, from the moment I met you, I saw how you operate from the mentality of a student for life, and that really illustrates and shows.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
Um,
Absolutely. Can
yeah,
always be learning.
totally. Well, today we've been talking to John Anderson, president of Biogents. John, if people want to learn more about you, yeah, where can they reach out to you or learn more about you and Biogents?
Yeah. So, of course, please feel free to visit the website, www.biogents.com. You can look me up on LinkedIn, John Mark Anderson. Otherwise, if anyone wants to shoot me an email, john.anderson@biogents, I will try to respond. I get a lot of emails, but put, in the capture, looking forward to meet, or maybe put this podcast on there or AGL, Amazon Growth App. I look at all those emails, and that will get my attention. And then I'd love to have a conversation. I love meeting people. I love hearing their story, learning. I feel I don't care where anyone's at in their journey. I feel I can learn from them, and hopefully they can maybe learn a little bit from me. But
Every time
yeah,
I talk to you, I get inspired. So thanks for,
I'll be honest with you. Likewise, Yoda. Likewise.
well, thanks for the time and amazing chatting.
All right. I really appreciate it. You have a wonderful day. Thanks, Jonah.